April 1st will decide your fate, a life-changing, prophetic warning. There are moments in time, seemingly ordinary days, that are not what they appear to be. Days cloaked in disguise, days that laugh, jest, and pretend to be fools, but behind the veil destiny stirs. April 1st. A day the world calls Fool's Day, a day of mockery, of tricks, of jesters, parading in the mask of deception. But I tell you now, this April 1st is not like the others. This April 1st holds a weight, a mystery, a trembling that echoes from eternity. For the calendar of man is but a shallow thing, a fragile construct. But there is another calendar, a divine timetable. And on that timetable, April 1st has been marked, not as a joke, not as folly, but as a line in the sand, a fork in the road, a moment of choice, a day of reckoning. What if the day of fools is the day of revelation? What if the jest hides judgment? What if behind the laughter there is a warning? There is a principle, ancient and unshakable, found in the fabric of the scriptures. God uses the foolish things to shame the wise. And so it is. On the day that men laugh, heaven may weep. On the day men play, the throne of judgment may be set. The alarm is sounding. The trumpet is being blown. But not with fanfare, no, with subtlety, like a whisper on the wind. April 1st is coming. You thought it was just another day, but heaven knows better. The choices you've made, the paths you've followed, the truth you've ignored, the voice you've silenced, it all stands before you now. Not in accusation, but in invitation. For this day will divide, it will expose, it will decide. You stand at the threshold of a great unveiling. You can pretend it's all a game, you can laugh with the crowd, play the fool, dismiss the signs, or you can awaken, shake off the slumber, open your eyes. Because the fool says in his heart, there is no God, but the wise hear the call in the whirlwind. And the spirit is stirring, the veil is thin. You've been chosen for this hour, for this warning, for this chance. And this April 1st may be your moment to turn, to break, to rise. What you do with it will echo into eternity. So I speak now, not to your ears, but to your soul. The hour is late, the choice is real. And the day of fools may be the day of fate. You see, what men call foolish, God often calls sacred. What the world mocks, heaven watches. And what appears as jest on the surface may be the camouflage of divine intervention. For even now, as this date approaches, April 1st, the winds are shifting. The world continues in its distractions, its diversions, its entertainments, blind to the trembling in the heavens. But there is a shaking, a disturbance in the realm you cannot see, but your spirit can feel, a rumble that is not of this world. And yet, so many sleep. They walk with eyes open, but souls closed. They scroll and swipe and talk and laugh, but the voice calling from beyond remains ignored. But you, something in you knows that this isn't just another April 1st ... that there's something different, that there's a summons deep in the marrow of your bones, and you can't explain it, but it's real. Because you've been marked. You are not just one among many, you are the one chosen to hear, to feel, to sense that the hour has come, that something is being required of you. That heaven has drawn a line and your name has been whispered on the other side. You are not here by accident, not hearing these words by chance. The same hand that etched destiny into the stars is the same hand reaching for you now. The day of mockery, the day of jest, it hides a sacred assignment. The scriptures speak of a time when men will call good evil and evil good, when the prophets will be mocked and the truth will be trampled in the streets. We are living in such a time when the sacred is ridiculed, when conviction is condemned, when compromise is celebrated. And so the warnings come not with thunder, but with riddles, not with earthquakes, but with whispers, because the wise must discern what the foolish miss. And here lies the paradox. The day that wears the mask of the fool may be the very day heaven unmasks your soul. What if this day, April 1st, is a divine test wrapped in laughter? a window disguised as a wall, a door painted to look like stone. There are moments when your entire life pivots on a single decision, a moment disguised in the ordinary. But when the books are opened in eternity, that moment will shine like a starburst. This is one of those moments you think you've got time, that tomorrow is guaranteed, that warnings are for others, that prophetic signs are dramatic, loud, unmistakable, but no, often they are hidden, encoded in the mundane, wrapped in ordinary things, a bush that burns but is not consumed, a whisper in a cave, a cross on a hill mistaken for failure, yet it split time in two. April 1st may look like jest, but heaven is serious. The fool dances on the edge of the cliff, laughing while the ground crumbles, but the wise feel the trembling beneath their feet and step back. Which are you? This is not a scare. This is not drama. This is mercy. The kind of mercy that shouts before the crash, the kind of love that warns before the fall. You say, but what could possibly change in a day? Everything. A life can turn in a moment, a soul can be pierced with a word, a nation can fall overnight, and a destiny can awaken in the blink of an eye. One moment in the presence of truth can undo years of wandering. One choice can rewrite the narrative of your life. This is such a choice. There are things that cannot go with you into the next chapter. Habits, compromises, hidden sins, delays, old wounds. The door that is opening before you requires that you leave them behind. April 1st will not wait for your comfort. It will not adjust to your convenience. It is coming like a train at full speed, and you must decide whether you will get on board or be left behind. And here's the mystery. It is not just about what will happen on April 1st. It's about what's been building toward it. The choices you've made, the ones you've avoided, the whispers you've silenced, the convictions you've pushed down. All of it culminates in this appointed time, this kairos moment, this intersection of the seen and unseen. The enemy wants you to laugh it off. He wants you to say, it's just a joke, it's just another day, don't take it so seriously. But your spirit knows better, because you've felt the nudges, you've heard the quiet alarms, you've seen the signs that the path you've walked cannot continue unchanged. The days of pretending are over. The hour of games has passed. And now the voice calls, not from the mountaintop, but from deep within you, return. Return to the purpose for which you were born. Return to the fire that once burned in your heart. Return to the secret place where you used to hear the whisper of God in the silence. You cannot keep walking with one foot in the light and one in the dark. The path is narrowing, the time is short, and the window is closing. April 1st will decide if you cross over or stay behind. The time of passive faith is done. The shaking will increase. What can be shaken will be shaken, and only what is rooted will remain. The time of borrowed conviction and inherited beliefs is over. Now comes the time of reckoning. Not punishment, alignment. A realignment of your life to the truth you already know but have been afraid to face. You are not powerless. You are not forgotten. You are not here to merely survive this life. You were born to burn, to shine, to be a voice, not an echo. And everything you've walked through, every trial, every heartbreak, every detour, has led you to this moment. But the fire cannot fall on an altar that's broken. So rebuild the altar. Take this season, this strange, sobering, sacred moment disguised as a foolish day, and offer yourself again. Not just your words, not just your promises, your life, your time, your choices, your secret thoughts. Lay them down, because this time heaven is not asking for religion. It is asking for surrender. And when you surrender, you will find that this day, the day others laugh off, becomes your day of clarity. The veil will lift, the confusion will break, the fog will clear. You will see again, You will feel again. You will become again not who you were, but who you were always meant to be. There is a remnant rising, not the loudest, not the most visible, but the ones who said yes when others laughed, the ones who bowed when others boasted, the ones who chose humility in a world that worships pride. These are the chosen. These are the awakened. And you too have been called. But the calling is not automatic. The invitation is not a guarantee. You must respond. The door is open, but you must walk through it. And April 1st is that door. So as the world mocks, as the laughter rises, as the pranks unfold, look beyond it. Listen deeper. Ask the question, what is this day for me? Because one day you will look back and you will say either, that was the day I dismissed destiny as a joke, or you will say, that was the day everything changed. Heaven is waiting. The choice is yours, because the choice has always been yours. Since the beginning in the garden with the tree and a voice and the lie of the serpent, did God really say? The war has always been about choice, and today it is no different. The serpent still speaks, the lie still whispers. It's not serious, it's not urgent, it's just a day, it's just April 1st. But listen, don't you feel it? Beneath the laughter, something trembles. Under the sound of jokes and distractions, there's a current pulling, a truth pushing up through the cracks. And the fool may walk by it, never noticing. But the chosen, the called, the sensitive in spirit, they feel it. This is not just about a date, it's about destiny. It's about what has been building in the hidden places, the decisions made in silence, the compromises justified in darkness, the paths taken in fear, not faith. And now all of it stands exposed, not by men, but by time, because time itself is a witness. It testifies. And there comes a moment when time speaks louder than any voice. April 1st is not just a day, it is a witness, it is a mirror, it is a threshold. And what you do with it may echo into every day that follows. You've waited for the right time, for the perfect moment to shift, to turn, to return. But the perfect moment never comes when you're waiting for comfort. The move of God rarely waits for the convenience of man. He moves when He moves. And when He does, you move or you miss it. The Spirit of God does not wait for our calendars. He does not knock endlessly on a door that remains closed. There comes a time when the sound of knocking fades, when the opportunity passes, and what remains is not judgment, but silence. And silence, for a soul that once heard the voice of God, is the loudest agony of all. Do not trade the voice of destiny for the noise of the crowd. Do not trade the weight of eternity for the weightlessness of a laugh. Because the days are shortening, the distractions are multiplying, and the world is spinning faster toward the edge. What was once considered sacred is now scoffed at. What was once unthinkable is now celebrated. And those who speak truth are labeled mad fools in a world of blind men. But remember this, in the eyes of eternity, it is not the truth speaker who is the fool. It is the one who laughs while the storm gathers. The storm is not just coming, it's here, not always in the form of thunder, but in subtle shifts, in unease, in emptiness, in a world where people have everything and yet are starving inside. The famine is not of food, it is of meaning, it is of purpose, it is of truth. And April 1st becomes for some the day they recognize the hunger they can no longer ignore. The hunger that no pleasure can satisfy, the thirst that no success can quench, the ache that no applause can heal. Because you were not made to be entertained, you were made to be set apart, called out, marked by fire. But the fire requires wood, the altar requires sacrifice. and you cannot receive what's next if your hands are full of what never belonged to you in the first place. There must be a letting go of old wounds you still wear like armor, of sins you've made peace with in the name of survival, of identities you built from brokenness, not from truth, of fear masquerading as wisdom, of comfort posing as peace. Because everything false must fall away if the true is to arise. And the true you is waiting on the other side of obedience. It won't be easy. It won't be loud. It may not even make sense. But the whisper of destiny is stronger than the roar of comfort. The voice that calls your name knows where you're meant to go, even if you've forgotten. You think you've disqualified yourself, that your mistakes are too many, that you missed too many signs, that you waited too long. But the fact that you're hearing this now proves otherwise. Because mercy has a way of coming back around. Because purpose doesn't forget the one it was written for. And because grace does not knock with anger, it knocks with urgency. This is not about fear, it is about truth. And truth, when it pierces, can feel like fire. But fire cleanses, fire refines, fire awakens. In the color upside of heat, you've seen the signs in the news, in the world, in your own life. Things shifting, foundations cracking, systems breaking, the illusion of control slipping through your fingers. And it's not just you, it's everywhere. The world is being exposed, and so are we. You cannot hide behind the mask anymore. You cannot keep playing roles written by people who never knew your soul. You cannot keep shrinking to fit inside cages you were never meant to inhabit. You are not the version of yourself that fear created. You are not the story that failure told you. You are not the lie that pain repeated. You are the chosen one, not chosen because you are perfect, but chosen because you are willing. Willing to hear, willing to turn, willing to rise. But willingness is not enough without action. The call must be answered, and the answer requires everything. There are no half offerings in the kingdom of purpose, no partial surrenders, no silent yes. It is all or nothing, because the cost is high, but the reward is beyond anything you could imagine. What's waiting on the other side of your yes? Maybe a healing you've prayed for, but only surrender can unlock. Maybe a calling you've glimpsed but never dared to embrace. Maybe the restoration of what was lost, the resurrection of what died, the rebuilding of what was broken beyond recognition. But none of it comes until you choose. This is the paradox of divine moments. They demand what we think we cannot give, but when we give it, we realize it was never ours to keep. You have been circling the same mountain long enough. You have waited for permission when heaven already said go. You have held on to the edge when you were called to leap. And now the trumpet sounds, not in a sanctuary, but in your spirit, not with fanfare, but with finality. A quiet urgency that says, now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when it all makes sense. No. And if you wait too long, the door will close, not out of punishment, but because timing matters, because appointments have windows, and this is yours. There's something holy about a deadline, something sobering about knowing a moment will not last forever, that a date approaches that will not come again in the same way, that April 1st is more than a number, it is a turning, and you must choose. The world will not understand. They will mock your seriousness, laugh at your urgency, call you dramatic. They may say, lighten up, it's just April Fools. But the ones who carry fire have never been understood by those who live in smoke. You were not made to blend in. You were not made to entertain the world while your soul decays. You were made to set the course, to speak when others are silent, to stand when others bow, to burn when others chill to the coldness of compromise. This is the hour. You've been prepared for it even in ways you did not see. Every pain, every delay, every disappointment, it wasn't meaningless. It forged you. It refined you. It peeled away what couldn't come with you. And now, here you are, standing on the edge of a day that looks like a joke to the world, but may be the most serious day of your life. You know what you must do, not because I say it, but because your spirit already knew. Even before this moment, even before these words, something deep in you was stirring, waiting, listening for confirmation. And now it has come. So what will you do? What will you choose? Because the hour is here and heaven is watching. You may feel unready, you may feel unworthy, but heaven never called the qualified, it qualifies the called. And the call has come to you not because of who you are now, but because of who you are meant to become. The call doesn't speak to your fear, it speaks to your purpose. It doesn't see your failure, it sees your future. It doesn't echo your excuses, it declares your destiny. And so here we are. A date approaches, the world laughs, the stage is set, and while the multitude sleepwalk through another day of jokes and jests, the Spirit cries out for the one who will see, the one who will hear, the one who will respond, the one who understands that eternity sometimes hides itself in the most unexpected places. It is not a coincidence that the world has chosen to laugh on this day. The enemy always mocks what he fears, and he fears this moment, fears your awakening, fears your obedience, fears what happens when the chosen one stops hiding and starts rising. So what has he done? He has covered the day with comedy, wrapped the sacred in sarcasm. He has taught the world to call April 1st a Fool's Day. But isn't that just like the enemy? To take a divine appointment and twist it until no one recognizes it for what it truly is? To take the day of decision and convince the masses it's meaningless, but not you, because your eyes have begun to open, because the veil is lifting, because something inside you is burning again, a flicker maybe, but enough to light the way if you follow it. This isn't about fear, this is about fire, because you were born to carry something holy, not a religion, not a ritual, a presence, a fire, a word, and that fire is being stirred even now. You feel it, don't you? In the middle of the chaos, beneath the noise of culture, past the voices of doubt, you hear it. A call, a whisper, a summons. It won't shout, it won't force, it waits for your yes. Because the kingdom does not advance through coercion, it advances through consecration, through the quiet yet thunderous sound of a life fully surrendered. And that is what this day is demanding. Not a halfway faith, not a once-a-week devotion, not a faith built on feelings, but a faith forged in the fire of choice. This kind of surrender costs something. It costs your pride, your comfort, your convenience. It demands that you stop building kingdoms of your own name. It requires you to lay down your reputation, your agenda, even your fears. It calls you to walk by faith when sight offers no reassurance, to step out when logic demands you stay. But it is in that surrender that the true you emerges, not the version shaped by culture, not the version wounded by life, not the version who learned to survive, but the one called to lead. And leadership begins with obedience, with listening to the whisper when others are shouting, with choosing the narrow path when the wide one beckons, with standing in the middle of a laughing crowd and refusing to laugh with them, because you see what they don't. This is your test, not just a test of behavior, but of vision. Can you see what's really happening? Can you perceive what lies beneath the surface? Can you discern the moment? The scriptures say the sons of Issachar understood the times and knew what Israel should do. That kind of discernment is rare. That kind of wisdom is costly. But you are being invited into it, into the discernment of the moment, into the understanding of why this day matters more than it seems. There's something being released on this day, not just over the world, but in you. A breaking, a shifting, a divine confrontation with every place of delay, doubt, and disobedience. The things you tolerated before will now rise up and demand to be dealt with. The things you avoided will press in. The old ways will no longer work, because the time has changed. You cannot walk into a new season wearing the garments of the old, the garments of passivity, the garments of fear, the garments of self-preservation. They must come off. You are being clothed in something new. But new garments require new posture, and new posture begins with repentance. Not shame, not self-hatred, repentance. The sacred, holy act of turning, of coming back, of bowing low so that you can rise rightly. The enemy will tempt you to ignore it, to delay, to convince yourself you're imagining things, that it's just emotion, just a phase, just words. But the enemy has always feared words, because the Word created the universe, because the Word became flesh, because the Word is alive. And the Word is being spoken to you now, not through thunder, but through fire, not from a pulpit, but from the depths of your own spirit. This is not second-hand revelation. This is your personal encounter. There is no more time for waiting, no more time for indecision. No more pretending you haven't seen. You have seen, and once you see, you are accountable for the vision. You may be thinking, but what if I'm wrong? What if I say yes and nothing happens? But I ask you, what if you're right? What if this is your moment? What if this is your appointment? What if the silence you've endured was only waiting for this day? Because sometimes heaven doesn't speak until it's time to move. Sometimes the silence is the sound of divine breath being drawn before a word is released that changes everything. And you, chosen one, are on the edge of that word. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too small. In fact, it is your smallness that qualifies you. Because God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Because His power is made perfect in weakness, because His ways are not your ways. He doesn't choose the obvious, He chooses the obedient. And obedience doesn't wait for clarity, it moves at the sound of His voice. This is your burning bush, your Jordan River, your upper room, your Damascus road, your moment in the wilderness where a decision becomes a destiny. But decisions demand action. And action demands courage. And courage is not the absence of fear, it is obedience in the face of it. So tremble if you must, cry if you must, but do not delay. There is an urgency in the spirit realm that does not match the casualness of the natural one. And if you lean into it, you'll feel it. Like pressure, like birth pangs, like something groaning to be born, because something is being birthed in you, a calling, a shift, a new identity. But birth is always preceded by pain, by pressure, by a point of no return. You are at that point now. You can't go back to who you were. You can't unhear what you've heard. You can't unknow what you now know. So why hesitate? Because the world won't wait for you. The shaking won't pause, the hour won't rewind, and heaven's trumpet is not a lullaby, it is a battle cry. The battlefield is not just outside you, it is within you, in your thoughts, in your will, in your surrender. But take heart, you are not alone. The same spirit that hovered over the deep before light ever was, hovers now over the chaos of your life. Ready to bring order, ready to speak light, ready to resurrect what has lain dormant too long. But He waits for your yes, not a passive yes, not a silent yes, A full-throated, soul-deep, no turning back yes. That yes may cost you friends. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you the approval of those who once celebrated you. But the price is nothing compared to the promise. And the promise is this: if you lose your life for His sake, you will find it. So count the cost. Feel the weight. Then take a breath, lift your eyes, and say yes anyway. Because April 1st may be the day they call foolish, but heaven may remember it as the day the chosen one rose. And heaven is still watching. Because heaven does not forget the moments when earth shifts. When a soul, unseen by the world, stands up in a room alone, no spotlight, no applause, and says, "I will follow." Those are the moments that alter the atmosphere. Those are the yeses that heaven writes into eternity. Not the loud, not the flashy, not the famous, but the faithful. And when your yes comes on the day of fools, it carries more weight than you know. Because the true fool is not the one mocked by the world, but the one who hears the call and turns away. And though the world might label you the fool for believing in this moment, for obeying an unseen voice, for surrendering to a stirring in your spirit, eternity knows better. You are not the fool. You are the one who heard. You are the one who saw. You are the one who answered when others laughed. And even now, something is happening. In the invisible, in the spiritual, chains are breaking, not with the sound of crashing iron, but in quiet obedience. Yokes are lifting, assignments are shifting. That weight you've carried, of shame, of confusion, of restlessness, it wasn't yours to carry, and in this moment it is beginning to lift. The enemy has been terrified at this moment. That's why the distractions came so strong. That's why the temptation to dismiss this as just emotion is so loud. That's why compromise has knocked so often, trying to pull you into the safe and small. Because your yes is dangerous. Your surrender has weight. The ripple effect of your decision will not stop with you. It will move through generations, through cities. There is no such thing as a small yes in the hands of a great God. You've felt stuck, you've wondered why doors haven't opened, why clarity hasn't come, why breakthrough felt far away, but it wasn't because God was far, it was because He was waiting, waiting for the right moment, waiting for the fullness of time, waiting for this day, the day appointed for the unveiling, the day marked by the mocking of men, but honored in the courts of heaven. And now the clock ticks closer, the day draws near, and you are being positioned, not just to survive what's coming, but to lead in it, to shine in it, to carry a word that cuts through the fog and pierces the dark. But that word cannot come through lips still bound by fear. It comes through surrender, it comes through fire, it comes through death. Death to pride, to performance, to pretending. The invitation of this moment is death, but not the end. Death unto resurrection. Death unto glory. Death unto truth. Because unless a seed falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it brings what in you must die, what must be buried, not because it was bad, but because its time is over. What dream, what relationship, what identity, what expectation must be laid into the soil so that new life can spring forth. This is why the season has felt so strange, why you felt pulled between two worlds, two versions of yourself, two timelines, because you are in between. You are in the space between death and resurrection, between goodbye and hello, between the mask and the mirror. And April 1st becomes your crossover. The world calls it a day for pranks and jesters, but heaven sees it as a Red Sea moment, a Jordan moment, the crossing of a threshold, not marked by a crowd, but by consecration, and only the consecrated can cross. This is why the fire has turned up, why the pressure increased, why you've had to walk through storms that made no sense. Because fire does not come to destroy, it comes to purify, to refine, to prepare. You are being prepared not for safety, but for assignment. And the assignment requires your yes. The yes that doesn't wait for understanding. The yes that doesn't need to know what's next. The yes that says, even if none go with me, still I will follow. Because the next chapter cannot be written in the ink of compromise. It must be written in the ink of blood and fire, sacrifice and passion. And you, chosen one, are the pen. But pens don't write unless they are pressed, unless they are guided, unless they surrender to the hand that holds them. Let yourself be written. Let your life become the scroll on which heaven tells its story. You don't have to be strong enough. You don't have to have the answers. You don't even have to feel ready. You just have to be willing to follow the whisper when it's drowned out by noise, willing to trust the fire when it doesn't feel safe, willing to say yes when everything in your flesh screams no. And when you do, everything changes. Not all at once, not with fireworks, but with a shift, a new alignment, a new clarity, a new authority, the kind of authority that only comes through surrender, not the authority of title, but of truth, the authority of one who has nothing left to lose because they've already laid it all down. That kind of authority terrifies darkness, because darkness cannot manipulate a surrendered heart. It cannot bribe a laid down life. It cannot intimidate a soul that has already died to the world. You are becoming that kind of soul. And this is your moment. You may feel like you are standing on the edge of everything and nothing. Like if you leap, you may fall. But what if you don't fall? What if you fly? What if the ground that catches you is not the one you expected, but the one you were destined for? You will never know unless you move, unless you say yes, unless you lay it down. April 1st is not just a warning, it is an invitation to walk differently, to speak differently, to live as if you know that the world is not your home, that your purpose is not your own, that your life is not random. You were born for this moment, not to spectate, not to survive, but to shift the atmosphere. You are the answer to someone's cry. You are the carrier of someone's breakthrough. You are the vessel through which the divine wants to pour. But the vessel must be empty to be filled. So empty of pride, of pretending, of chasing approval, of dead religion, of half faith, of the illusion that you can control what was never yours to hold. And as you empty, He will fill. He will fill with wisdom, with power, with clarity, with peace. Not the kind the world gives, but the kind that stands firm while the world shakes. The kind that sleeps in the storm. The kind that sings in the prison. The kind that burns but is not consumed. That is what you were made for. Not for the applause of man, but for the pleasure of God. Not for survival, but for surrender. Not to blend in, but to blaze. So on April 1st, let the world mock, let them laugh, let them scroll past, joke, dismiss. But you will kneel, you will weep, you will surrender, you will rise. Because the foolishness of the world is wisdom in the eyes of God. And this so-called foolish day may be the day that marks the turning point of your entire life. Do not miss it, do not dismiss it, do not delay. You were chosen for this, born for this, prepared for this. And now it is time. So now the time for hesitation is over. The moment is here and the decision stands before you, not as a distant idea, but as a living invitation. You can walk away, return to the comfort of familiar patterns, and let the noise of the world drown out the whisper of destiny. Or you can answer. You can say yes, not to a man, not to a date on a calendar, but to the one who formed you for such a time as this. This is not just about April 1st. This is about eternity invading time, about heaven marking a moment as sacred while the world laughs. It's about the divine calling forth the chosen, not the perfect, not the powerful, but the willing, the surrendered. You are that one. You are the chosen. Let them laugh. Let the world mock. But let heaven rejoice, because the day the world calls foolish may just be the day you stepped into your destiny. Choose, respond, rise. For this April 1st, everything changes. What if I told you that the very things you regret, the choices you wish you could undo, the mistakes that haunt you in the silence of the night, were not the end of your story? That in the hands of God, your past is not a chain, but a key. There is a mystery that has echoed through the ages, woven into the tapestry of redemption, that our God, who is not bound by time, not confined by circumstance, does not merely forgive sin, he transforms it. He redeems it. He makes it serve his purpose. You see, we think in terms of failure and shame, but he thinks in terms of destiny. You see your past as disqualified, but God sees it as preparation. That wound you carry, he will turn it into healing for someone else. That shame you buried, he will raise it up as a testimony. That mistake that derailed your life, he will reroute it to fulfill the very calling you thought you'd lost. Think about it. Moses murdered a man and God turned him into a deliverer. David fell in sin, and from that brokenness came songs that still heal souls. Peter denied the very Messiah he swore to defend, and that same mouth would later declare his resurrection with power. Saul, the persecutor of the church, became Paul, the apostle to the nations. This is the pattern. This is the way of the kingdom. God doesn't waste anything. Not your sin, not your scars, not your failures. There is a divine paradox at work. The enemy thinks he's won when he leads you into sin. He celebrates your fall, not knowing he's just planted the very soil where God will bring forth fruit. The devil thought the cross was the end, but it was the beginning. He thought the blood was defeat, but it was victory. And so too with your life. The very thing meant to destroy you becomes the thing God uses to glorify himself through you. What Satan uses to write shame, God rewrites into grace. What the world says disqualifies you, God says qualifies you. In the economy of heaven, brokenness becomes currency. Ashes become beauty, and the past becomes a platform. Do you know why God does it this way? Because when people see your life and they know where you've come from, they can't explain the transformation. It confounds logic. It silences the accuser. It magnifies the Redeemer. People look at you and say, it had to be God. So no, your past is not a prison. It is a stage for the glory of God. Every regret you surrender, he redeems. Every mistake you yield, he repurposes. Every shattered dream he reshapes. And in the end, you won't just be someone who was forgiven, you'll be someone through whom God did what only he could do. That is the mystery. That is the miracle. That is the mercy of God. And so it begins, not at the moment of your fall, but at the moment you bring your fall to him. That's the turning point. The moment you say, God, I have nothing left. Not strength, not righteousness, not even a plan. That is the moment when heaven begins to move, not in spite of your weakness, but through it. You see, we've been taught to hide our scars, to pretend we've always walked the straight path, always had it together. But God isn't glorified in your perfection, he's glorified in your redemption. That's the difference. The world applauds those who appear flawless. Heaven rejoices over those who've been made new. That's why your story matters. Not just the cleaned up version of it, but the raw, broken, tear-stained journey. That's where the anointing flows, not from polished sermons, but from real scars. The anointing flows from the cracks, from the places that once bled. Think of the alabaster jar. It had to be broken for the fragrance to be released. So too with us. The fragrance of your life, the testimony that carries the power to change others, doesn't come from what you kept together. It comes from what broke and how He put it back together in a way only He could. You may have lived through things that make you wonder if you missed your calling, your purpose. Maybe you think too much time has passed. Maybe you feel like the mistakes are too many, the damage too deep. But the truth is, you're not behind. You're in the exact place where grace meets you. Redemption doesn't run on your clock. It runs on God's timing. And His timing is always perfect. He waits. Not because He's delayed, but because He's preparing. He's not just restoring you, He's preparing you to carry something greater than you ever imagined. The delay, the wilderness, the detour, it's not wasted. It's sacred ground. The desert becomes the place of encounter. The pit becomes the place of revelation. And the prison, it becomes the training ground for the palace. Remember Joseph? Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, forgotten in prison. But God was not absent in those years. He was crafting a vessel, refining a man who would one day save nations. The very betrayal that sought to destroy him was the vehicle God used to place him before Pharaoh. The prison didn't disqualify him, it qualified him, because it's in the prison that character is forged. It's in the darkness that dependence on God becomes unshakable. And this is the mystery. God doesn't just undo your past, He uses it. He weaves it into His design. Like a master weaver, threading strands of failure and grace, sorrow and hope, loss and restoration, into a tapestry only heaven could conceive. If you could see from heaven's view, you'd weep for how beautiful the picture is becoming. Even the dark threads serve a purpose. And when God redeems you, He doesn't just return you to neutral. He launches you into overflow. The same Peter who sank in the water became the rock upon which the church was built. The same Mary Magdalene, once bound by 7 demons, was chosen to be the first to see the risen Christ. The woman caught in adultery was not condemned but commissioned, "Go and sin no more." In that moment her past lost its grip and grace wrote her future. What if I told you your testimony is still being written? That even your most hidden failure, the one you hope no one ever discovers, can be turned into a wellspring of healing for others. That's the beauty of the cross. It doesn't just erase sin, it transforms it into a message of hope. That's why the enemy works so hard to keep you in shame, because he knows that once you bring it into the light, it loses its power. And once it loses its power, God gains glory. Don't you see? Your greatest ministry often flows from your deepest wound. Your most powerful testimony often springs from your greatest mistake. Why? Because people don't need more perfection. They need proof that grace is real. They need to see that it works, not just for saints, but for sinners. Not just for those who almost got it right, but for those who blew it entirely. God's mercy is not partial. It's not tentative. He doesn't reluctantly forgive and then tolerate you. He delights in redeeming you. He chooses to use the broken. He doesn't need your resume. He wants your surrender. He wants the very thing you think disqualifies you. Because when He uses that, there can be no doubt it's Him. Not you, not your wisdom, not your strength, but Him. That's how the glory is preserved. So what do you do with your past? You bring it to the altar. You don't polish it up. You don't try to make it look better. You bring it as it is, bruised, broken, bleeding. And you lay it down, and the fire of God consumes it, not in judgment, but in love. And from those ashes, something new rises, something sacred. That's when you stop living to hide your past and start living to reveal His grace. That's when your story becomes a weapon. That's when your scars speak louder than your silence. Because now you're not hiding, you're testifying. You're walking into rooms where others are drowning in shame, and you're saying, "I've been there, I know what it's like, but let me tell you what God did for me." And they listen. because it's real, because it carries weight, because it's not theory, it's truth that's been walked out in flesh and blood. God is not looking for perfect vessels. He's looking for surrendered ones. He's not intimidated by your past. He's not shocked by your history. He saw it all before you lived a single day, and still He chose you. Still He called you. Still He wrote your name into His plan. Do you think He didn't know? Do you think your failure surprised Him? No. It was already accounted for, already covered, already woven into the story. And not only that, He intends to use it to glorify Himself, to bring freedom to others, to reveal the power of His mercy. You are not the sum of your mistakes. You are not the label others gave you. You are not the one who missed. You are the one He's redeeming, the one He's anointing, the one He's preparing. And if you will give Him your story, all of it, not just the polished parts, but the broken ones too, He will write something greater than you could ever imagine. He'll take what the enemy meant for evil and turn it into something holy, something eternal. Because that's who He is, the Redeemer, the Restorer, the one who makes rivers in the desert and roads in the wasteland, the one who calls the dead things back to life, the one who sees your scars and says, "This is where my glory will shine." And so every time you remember where you've been, don't shrink in shame, stand in awe, because what was meant to bury you became the soil for resurrection. What tried to silence you gave birth to your voice. What sought to bind you made you free. And not just free for yourself, but free to go back and set others free. That's the full circle of redemption. You're not just saved from something, you're saved for something. And when your life becomes a channel of that grace, you walk in the very purpose for which you were born. So don't despise your story. Don't run from your past. Don't believe the lie that you're disqualified, because the truth is you're more qualified now than ever. Not because of your perfection, but because of your redemption. The very things you once wished you could erase become the places where God proves just how deep His mercy runs. And when others look at your life, when they hear your story, when they feel the authenticity of your scars, they won't see shame. They'll see Jesus. They'll see the Redeemer at work. And that, my friend, is the miracle. That is how God turns your past sins into blessings. Not by ignoring them, not by pretending they didn't happen, but by transforming them into something holy, something powerful, something that can only be explained by one word: grace. So then the question is not, why did I go through what I went through, but what does God want to do with it now? Because if you keep asking why, you'll stay stuck in the pain. But if you start asking what now, what next, what for, then you're inviting God into it. You're handing Him the pen and saying, "I've written this far in weakness, now you write the rest in glory." And He will, because He doesn't just redeem time, He redeems story, He redeems identity, He redeems legacy. And that's the part we forget, that your redemption isn't just about you, it's about what your story will unlock in others. It's about your children and their children and the ones who will rise up behind you, walking path you once walked, facing the same temptations, the same voices, the same darkness. And when they do, your story will become a light. Your life becomes a prophetic act, a testimony that speaks louder than sermons. Because you're not just telling people that God forgives, you're showing them that He transforms. You're walking proof that the worst day of your life can become the doorway to the greatest move of God. And the enemy trembles at that. He isn't afraid of your past sins, he's afraid of what happens when you let God turn them into power. Because now your sin no longer serves the enemy, it serves heaven. Now it's not a weapon used against you, It's a weapon used against him. Every time you open your mouth and speak the truth of what God did, you take ground back. You plunder hell with your story. You tear down shame, not just for yourself, but for others. And this is what we need to grasp. You are not just a recipient of grace, you are a vessel of it. You're meant to carry it into places others are afraid to go. You've walked in darkness, then you can shine light there. You've been bound, then you carry the keys. You've been broken, then you carry healing in your hand. God never wastes a wound, not one tear, not one failure. He stores them all, redeems them all, and turns them into the oil of anointing. That's why those who've been forgiven much love much, because they understand the cost. They know the pit they were pulled from, and that love becomes a fire. It becomes a calling. And the world needs that. Not more pretense, not more masks, not more religion. It needs the raw, real, beautiful mess of redemption. People are desperate to know that they are not too far gone, that they are not too broken, that what they did, what they became, what they lost, does not define their ending. And you, your story, your life becomes the evidence, the walking, breathing, living evidence that God is who He says He is, that Jesus saves, that mercy still flows, that resurrection is not just an event, it's a process, it's a lifestyle, it's a holy reversal of what the enemy meant to destroy. That's why the enemy has tried so hard to silence you. He wants you to believe you're still disqualified, that what you did is bigger than what Jesus did, that your shame is stronger than His blood. But it's a lie, a bold-faced, trembling lie. Because the moment you agree with heaven instead of hell, everything begins to change. You begin to live not from your past, but from your future. Not from guilt, but from purpose. And suddenly your days have weight again. Your steps carry glory. Your words carry power. Not because you are powerful, but because grace is. And grace doesn't just cover what you did, it reclaims it. It takes back what was stolen. It takes the place of the fall and turns it into the foundation. God doesn't just say, I forgive you. He says, I'm going to use that, watch me. He's the God who takes prostitutes and makes them part of the Messiah's lineage. He takes the liars, the cowards, the murderers, and makes them heroes of the faith. That's not a coincidence, that's a pattern. That's His signature move. So if you feel like your story is too messy, too far gone, too complicated, good. You're in the perfect place for a miracle. You're the raw material for redemption. You're the one He's after, because those who've been shattered, once healed, carry the sharpest clarity. They know what matters, they know who matters, and they'll give everything to see others find the same freedom. And make no mistake, your freedom is the beginning of someone else's. It doesn't stop with you. That's the multiplication of grace, the exponential blessing of redemption. When God turns your sin into a blessing, it echoes. It doesn't just change your life, it changes generations. It breaks curses, it rewrites bloodlines, it shifts atmospheres. Because when you're no longer ashamed of your past, the devil loses his grip. When you're no longer afraid to speak the truth, chains start falling off other people. When you let God turn your sin into a story of grace, that story becomes a sword. And suddenly, you're not just someone who is saved, you're someone who's dangerous to darkness. That's why the enemy fights so hard to keep people in cycles of guilt and silence, because he knows what happens when they rise, when they walk in freedom, when they stop hiding and start testifying. That's when people say, if God could do it for you, maybe He can do it for me. And they begin to hope, they begin to believe, and that hope becomes faith, and that faith changes everything. So don't curse your past. Don't bury it in silence. Don't edit it to make it look acceptable. Let it breathe. Let it speak. Let it rise with power. Because when you do, when you offer it fully to God, He will do something you never thought possible. He will anoint it. He will sanctify what the world calls shameful. He will glorify what was once hidden. He will take your lowest point and build from it a testimony that shakes hell. And that's not just poetry, that's truth, that's the gospel, that's the blood of Jesus applied to real life. That's what happens when a sinner says yes to a Savior and then keeps saying yes even when it's messy, even when it's hard. Because that's the price of redemption. It's free for you, but it cost Him everything. And when you live in that truth, you don't walk the same, you don't speak the same, you don't love the same. You live like someone who's been rescued, like someone who's been restored, like someone who owes it all, not in shame, but in worship. And that worship isn't always a song, it's your life. It's your courage to tell the truth. It's your willingness to go back into the darkness and shine the light for someone else. It's your refusal to let the past define the future. Your boldness to believe that every part of your story belongs to Him now. Because it does. Every chapter, every fall, every regret, every comeback, every whispered prayer, every cry for help, every second chance, every healing, every yes. He's been there the whole time, not condemning, not waiting to punish, but longing to redeem, ready to restore, patiently preparing the moment when your past would no longer hold you back, but propel you forward. That moment is now. And as you move forward, don't just leave the past behind. Let it speak. Let it tell the world who God is. Let it declare that no one is too far, no night is too dark, no sin is too deep. Let your life be the sermon. Let your story be the altar. Let your redemption be the blessing you never saw coming. Because redemption doesn't stop at rescue. It turns into revelation. And not just the kind that changes your mind, but the kind that shifts the ground under your feet. The kind that redefines how you see everything. Your past becomes sacred ground, not because of what happened there, but because of what God did with it. And once you begin to see that, once the scales fall from your eyes, you'll realize that your history is no longer a source of shame. It's the foundation of your calling. What if the very thing you thought disqualified you was the very thing that God allowed to shape your heart for your assignment? What if that heartbreak, that detour, that disaster, it wasn't the end of your story, but the beginning of the real one? The one that's authored not by your striving, but by His Spirit. God doesn't operate like we do. He doesn't sift through resumes or weigh credentials. He doesn't look for the polished, the pristine, or the put together. He looks for the willing, for the broken, for the ones who have nothing left to prove, but everything left to give. He looks for those who are emptied out enough to be filled with His fire. And once that fire comes, you change. You can't go back. You can't walk the same way. You can't pretend that grace is just a concept when you've lived it, bled for it, wept in it. You become possessed by purpose, not because you're chasing greatness, but because greatness is chasing you. The greatness of God, the weight of glory that rests on those who've been through the valley of the shadow and didn't come out bitter, but burning. Do you know how rare that is, to go through the pit, the pain, the process, and still worship, still believe, still love? That's the miracle. That's what the world doesn't understand. That's what makes heaven shout, when someone who's been dragged through the fire emerges not consumed, but refined, not silenced, but singing. You become a vessel of hope, not theoretical hope, living hope. Hope that speaks louder than your past. Hope that tells the addict they're not too far. Hope that looks a suicidal teenager in the eyes and says, "You're still breathing, so God's not done." Hope that walks into broken places with authority, not because of titles or degrees, but because of testimony. And that testimony is your weapon. It's not just something you carry, it's something you release. Every time you speak it, you tear down strongholds. Every time you share it, you shift atmospheres. Every time you stand in the light and say, "This is what I was, and this is what He made me," you declare war on the lie that the past defines us. Because it doesn't. The blood defines us, the cross defines us, the resurrection defines us. And once you've been marked by that truth, everything else becomes background noise. The opinions of man, the accusations of the enemy, even the voice in your own head that says you're not enough, all of it loses its grip when you know who you are in Him. But knowing who you are comes from knowing where you've been and what He did in that place. It comes from looking your past in the eye and saying, "You're not my captor, you're my witness." You testify not just to your weakness, but to His strength, to His faithfulness, to the kind of love that doesn't walk away when things get ugly, that doesn't flinch when the truth comes out, that doesn't leave when the mask falls off. That's what separates God from everything else we've ever known. People love the version of us that's clean, composed, impressive. But God, He loves the version of you that weeps on the floor. The version that says, "God, I've got nothing left." Because that's when He moves. That's when He speaks. That's when He says, "Good, now I can finally do what only I can do." And what He does is never small. He doesn't do partial miracles. He doesn't heal halfway. He doesn't forgive selectively. He redeems the whole story. The parts you're proud of and the parts you prayed no one would ever find out about. He sees it all and He says, "This too I will use." So stop hiding the very thing He wants to anoint. Stop disqualifying yourself from a race He already marked you to run. Stop agreeing with the enemy's voice in your head and start agreeing with the voice that spoke the universe into being. The voice that called light out of darkness, the voice that called you out of darkness, that same voice is still speaking, still calling, still rewriting. And if you would just take your hands off your own story and place it in His, you'd see what happens when the author of life starts writing in ink that can't be erased by sin, by failure, by regret. You'd see what happens when grace becomes the headline, not the footnote. You'd see what happens when redemption becomes the plot twist that makes everything before it make sense. That's the power of God. He doesn't just heal, He transforms. He doesn't just restore you to who you used to be, He resurrects you into who you were always meant to be. And when He does, you won't walk in circles anymore. You won't wonder if your best days are behind you. You realize your best days are now, because they're being written by hands that don't make mistakes. You'll walk into places that used to intimidate you and bring peace. You'll speak in rooms where you once felt like a fraud and carry authority. You'll love people you once judged. You'll weep for the broken. You'll intercede for the lost. You'll minister from your scars, not your strength. And that will be the most powerful thing about you. Because you won't be pretending anymore. You'll be living, breathing, free. And the freedom won't just be for you. It will spill over into your family, into your marriage, into your friendships, into every room you enter. Because you're no longer walking under a cloud of guilt. You're walking under the cloud of glory. You're no longer trying to earn love. You're living from it. You're no longer a product of your past. You're a vessel of the kingdom. That's who you are. And no lie of the enemy can undo it. No mistake can disqualify it. No failure can erase it. Because you've been bought with blood. And once you've been marked by that, you can never be the same. So lift your head, not in pride, but in confidence. In the assurance that what God has done in you is real, that your redemption is not fragile, it's unshakable, that your story is not a liability, it's an asset in the hands of the Almighty. And the next time someone asks about your past, don't flinch, smile, tell the truth, tell the whole truth, not just the sanitized version, but the real one. the one with dirt and pain and mercy and miracles, because in that truth, someone else might find freedom. Someone else might find courage. Someone else might finally believe that if God did it for you, He can do it for them too. And that right there is how your past becomes a blessing. Not because it was beautiful, but because He is. Not because you were worthy, but because He is worthy. And now your life tells the story of that worth, that grace, that glory, and it will keep telling it for as long as you let it. And that's the thing about grace, it never stops speaking. It doesn't run out when the feelings fade or when the applause dies down. It doesn't depend on your emotions or your surroundings or whether you feel holy that day. It just is. It stands unshaken as the unbreakable covenant between heaven and your heart. And the more you walk with God, the more you realize He's not interested in who the world says you are. He's interested in what He's spoken over you since before the beginning. Because there was a word over your life before there was a wound. There was a calling before there was a failure. And the enemy has been trying ever since to reverse that order, to convince you that your wound has more authority than His word. But he's a liar, and when the truth breaks through, when you start walking as if His word matters more than your past, you become dangerous. Because you're not just walking in healing anymore, you're walking in purpose. You begin to live in such a way that every step you take is not a retreat from what happened to you, but a reclamation of what belongs to you. You start moving like someone who knows that nothing is wasted, nothing is lost, and even the darkest chapters are filled with divine fingerprints. You realize that the pain didn't break you, it became the path to your becoming. And that becoming is holy. It's in the wilderness where voices fade and only one remains, the voice of the shepherd. And that voice doesn't just remind you who you are, it reminds you who He is. And now here you are, still breathing, still standing, maybe even limping a little, but still moving forward. And that limp is your blessing. That limp is your mark. That limp says, I wrestled with God and didn't let go. I went through the night and I came out with a name change. Because that's what happens when God touches you in your brokenness. He doesn't just fix you, He redefines you. He says, you're not Jacob anymore, you're Israel now. You're not what you were, you're who I say you are. And so many people walk around wearing the name their past gave them, labeled by sin, by people, by shame. But the Spirit of God is calling out to those willing to hear. That name is not your name anymore. That identity is not yours. I've renamed you, I've claimed you, I've sealed you with my Spirit, and what I have spoken over you is eternal. You don't need to be defined by addiction, by divorce, by betrayal, by anger, by compromise, by fear. You are defined by the blood that was shed for you, by the cross that carried your guilt, by the tomb that was emptied for your victory. That is your identity. And once that becomes real to you, once it sinks in, not just in your mind, but in your spirit, you will never see your past the same way again. You'll stop asking, why did I go through that? And start asking, who can I help now that I've been through it? You'll stop trying to forget and start learning how to redeem what was meant to destroy you. Because now your eyes are open. And when your eyes are open, you don't just see your story, you see His fingerprints all over it. Even in the mess, even in the madness, even in the chapters you'd rather skip over, He was there. Not endorsing the sin, not excusing the choices, but weaving it all into something eternal. Because that's what grace does. It doesn't make light of sin, it just makes much of Jesus. And in doing so, it removes the power of the sin and restores the power of the testimony. That's why there's power in your story, not because of what happened to you, but because of what God did with it, because of what He's still doing with it. He's not finished. He's still writing, still healing, still using it to touch lives you haven't even met yet. Your story is bigger than you. It's bigger than your comfort zone, bigger than your fear, bigger than your reputation. Because when God redeems, He doesn't just fix you up and send you back into the world unchanged. He clothes you in His righteousness. He puts His Spirit inside of you. He commissions you with the authority of heaven to walk in places where others still feel trapped and bring freedom. And that's what the world is starving for. Not just people who look holy, but people who've been through hell and came out worshiping. People who can say, I know what shame feels like. I know what isolation feels like, but I also know what grace feels like. And I wouldn't trade the journey, because in the fire, I met the one who never left me. And once you've encountered that love, real love, relentless love, redeeming love, you can't keep it to yourself. You become a carrier of glory. You become a threat to hell, because you've seen what God can do with the worst of you. And now you live in expectation of what He can do with others. You start seeing broken people not as projects but as future testimonies. You look at dry bones and see potential. You hear stories of ruin and imagine resurrection. Because now you know, not because someone told you, but because you've lived it. You've seen the worst and still believe. You've stumbled and He caught you. You've sinned and He forgave you. You've doubted and He still called you. You've run and He ran faster. That kind of love changes you. It makes you brave, not in your own strength, but in His. Brave enough to open your mouth. Brave enough to tell your truth. Brave enough to stand up in rooms where you used to shrink back. Brave enough to walk into your calling, not because you earned it, but because He paid for it. And He didn't pay for a watered down version of you. He paid for the real you, the full you, the messy, complicated, inconsistent you. He looked at that version and said, I want them. And then He gave everything to make you His. So what now? You live like someone who knows they've been chosen. You walk like someone who knows they're redeemed. You speak like someone who knows the weight of their words. And you never stop telling the story, not just for your sake, but for theirs. For the ones still in the pit, still in the prison, still believing the lie that God only uses the clean. You show them that He uses the wounded, that He anoints the broken, that He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And your life becomes proof, not just that God exists, but that He is good, that He is merciful, that He is the kind of God who takes what was meant to curse you and turns it into your crown. So let Him use all of it, the tears, the trauma, the testimony. Don't waste the grace you've received by hiding it. Don't bury the miracle. Speak it, live it, share it, let it out into the world so it can do what it was always meant to do, change lives, one broken, beautiful, surrendered heart at a time. And so, if there's one thing you take with you, let it be this. Your past is not your prison, it's the platform God is building under your feet. What once tried to break you has no authority anymore, because in the hands of the Redeemer nothing is wasted. Not a single scar, not a single stumble, not a single season of silence. He has turned it all into a song, a story, a sermon written in the language of grace. You don't walk out of this carrying shame, you walk out clothed in purpose. You don't carry the weight of who you were, you carry the anointing of who He's made you to be. So lift your head, square your shoulders, and take the next step. Because your story isn't over, it's just beginning. And now, it's not a story of what you did, it's a story of what He's done. Let the world see it, let hell regret it, let heaven rejoice in it, and let your life declare it for all to hear. Our God takes the broken, the guilty, the fallen, and turns them into the blessed. That's who He is. That's what He does. And that is who you are now. Walk in it. My friends, we are living in a time unlike any other. The signs are converging, the trumpet is sounding, and the world is shifting beneath our feet. The seventh trumpet, yes, that final call in the book of Revelation, is drawing near. and with it comes a shaking, a mystery, and a divine summons to wake from our slumber. April 2025 looms not as a date on a calendar, but as a threshold, a moment in the divine pattern, a convergence of signs that compels us to ask, is the rapture near? The trumpet, the seventh trumpet. It is not just a sound, it is a cry from the heavens. It is the call that comes at the end of the age, when kingdoms fall, when the mystery of God is revealed, when what has been hidden is made manifest. And we must ask, are we now in the days of unveiling? Has the seal been broken, not just in prophecy, but in our very world? Look around, the earth groans, nations rise and fall, the hearts of men fail them for fear. Israel stands at the center once again. Wars and rumors of wars, the shaking of economies, the rise of lawlessness, the turning of right into wrong and wrong into virtue. It is written that in the last days knowledge shall increase and men shall run to and fro. And here we are, with all the signs, digital towers of Babel, artificial intelligence attempting to play the role of creator, the tower rising again, the garden defiled once more. And the church? Many sleep, many slumber, but the voice cries out, "Awake, O sleeper!" Why April 2025? What is the mystery of the time? It is not to set a date, no man knows the day or hour, but to recognize the signs of the season. Biblical cycles, appointed times, the Hebrew calendar aligning with warnings in the heavens. Eclipses, blood moons, sacred assemblies, these are not coincidences, they are divine appointments. A pattern repeating from ancient days now reaching its climax. It is the days of Noah again. Violence fills the earth, corruption spreads like a plague, and the door to the ark is still open. But for how long? As it was then, so it shall be. They were eating, drinking, marrying, until the day the flood came and took them all away. So shall it be. The trumpet does not warn the comfortable, it shakes the comfortable. It stirs the complacent, it calls to the broken-hearted, the seeking, the watchman on the wall. There is an urgency in the spirit, a whisper that has grown into a roar. That which is hidden will be revealed, that which is lukewarm will be spewed out, and that which is holy must now rise in boldness, in purity, in fire. The bride must prepare herself, for the bridegroom is at the door. And when the trumpet sounds, the seventh trumpet, it will not be time to get ready, it will be too late. You must be ready now. This is not the hour to fear, it is the hour to stand. The shaking is not the end, it is the beginning. The shaking comes before the glory, the darkness before the light, the falling away before the revealing. And those who have ears to hear must hear what the Spirit is saying to the churches. Watch, be sober, be vigilant. For the hour is late, and the seventh trumpet is near. The trumpet is not for the world to understand, it is for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. It is for those who have not bowed the knee to Baal, those who have not defiled their garments. It is the clarion call to the remnant, the watchman, the faithful. It is not entertainment, it is not theology for debate. It is the sound of heaven breaking into earth, the echo of eternity entering time. We must ask ourselves, are we living as if we believe this trumpet could sound at any moment? Or have we become like the foolish virgins carrying lamps with no oil, hearts distracted by the things of this world? The shaking is mercy, the shaking is grace. For in the shaking, God is saying, return to me. In the trembling of kingdoms, in the collapse of idols, He is pulling down the false so we might see the real. In the storm, He is calling us to build not on sand, but on the rock. Look at the fig tree. When it buds, you know that summer is near. Israel has budded. Jerusalem is in her hands again. 70+ years since the rebirth, and the generation that sees these things will not pass away until all is fulfilled. This is not mythology, this is not speculation, this is prophetic reality, unfolding in real time, before our very eyes. And yet many walk blind, spiritually dull, asleep in the light. April 2025 is not a deadline, it is a signpost. Something is aligning, a convergence of sacred time and present reality. The cycles of Jubilee, the Shemitah, the mysteries of the Moedim, the appointed times, all pointing to a narrowing path. We are being funneled, brought into a moment that will demand everything from us. Will we shrink back, or will we stand as those who overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony? Even the earth itself is responding. Volcanoes awakening, the seas roaring, the heavens shaking, solar eclipses casting shadows over nations, as if God himself is drawing a line in the sky saying, choose this day whom you will serve. Are we watching? Are we ready? Are we willing to let go of the world, of our comfort, our reputations, our safety, for the sake of eternity? The seventh trumpet is not just the end, it is the beginning of the reign. The kingdom of this world becomes the kingdom of our Lord and his Messiah. But before the crown comes the conflict. Before the glory comes the fire. Before the gathering comes the separation. Wheat from tares, sheep from goats, faithful from false. And many who say, Lord, Lord, will find their hearts weighed and found wanting. This is not the time for half-hearted faith. This is not the time for spiritual games. This is not the time to blend in, to compromise, to remain silent. This is the hour to shine like stars in the darkness, to lift the trumpet to your lips and not be ashamed, because when the trumpet sounds, it will not announce our comfort, it will not preserve our idols, it will not flatter our egos, it will declare the King. And when he comes, he is not coming as the lamb, he is coming as the lion. Not as the silent sufferer, but as the roaring judge. Eyes like fire, voice like many waters, feet like bronze. He will not be mocked. He will not be postponed. He will not be rebranded for convenience. He is coming in power, and every eye will see him, and those who pierced him will mourn. What will he find in you when he comes? Will he find faith? Will he find oil in your lamp? Will he find you watching at the door, heart burning, hands clean, robe white, unashamed of his name? Or will he find you among the crowd, chasing the approval of men, tangled in the web of the temporary, more concerned with the opinions of social media than the approval of heaven? The signs are not hidden. They are broadcast in the heavens, in the earth, in the culture, in the headlines. They are there for those who seek. The question is not whether God is speaking. The question is whether we are listening. It was not the lack of signs that destroyed past generations. It was their failure to discern them. And the same danger lies at our door. There is a line being drawn, and the gray is disappearing. You cannot be both holy and worldly. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot preach grace and live rebellion. The time for mixture is ending. The fire will fall, and when it does, only what is of him will stand. The idols of success, of celebrity, of compromise will be consumed in a moment. And blessed will be those who are found in the secret place, those hidden in the cleft of the rock. There is a reason for the shaking. God is not cruel. He is calling us to himself. In judgment he remembers mercy. In wrath he offers redemption. But the window does not stay open forever. Just as in the days of Noah, the ark stood ready, and then the door was shut. The same is coming, and when the door is shut, no man can open it. So now is the time. Today is the day of salvation. You say, but I have time. No, you have now. That's all any of us have. You say, I'm not ready, then get ready. You say, I don't know what to do, then cry out. Seek him while he may be found. Repent, turn, surrender. Lay down your idols, pick up your cross, follow the one who already bore your shame. There is still room in the ark, but you must choose. The enemy knows his time is short. That is why the deception is so strong, the counterfeit so convincing. Even the elect would be deceived if it were possible, but it will not be possible for those who walk by the Spirit, who live in the Word, who cling to the cross. The enemy is not afraid of church attendance. He is not afraid of motivational sermons. He trembles at the sound of the trumpet, the word of the Lord, the name of Jesus spoken in authority. We are not here to survive, we are here to overcome, to be light in the darkness, salt in the decay, truth in the chaos. And when the darkness grows darker, the light shines brighter. But it must be a real light, not a flicker of religion, not a dim echo of yesterday's fire. It must be the fire of the living God, burning in us, unquenchable, holy. The rapture is not an escape, it is a reward. It is not for those who simply believed, it is for those who overcame, who endured, who loved not their lives even unto death, who lived in the tension of this age, not fleeing from it but shining through it, who carried the name of Jesus with boldness and humility, with trembling and joy. The seventh trumpet is not a myth, it is a promise. It is the final blast that splits the sky. It is the sound that will raise the dead, change the living, and usher in the reign of the King. And the enemy knows it. That's why he's in a frenzy. That's why the world is unraveling, because the kingdom of God is coming, and the kingdoms of this world are about to fall. Let your heart not be troubled. Let fear not master you. But let holy urgency grip you. Let fire awaken you. Let the Spirit stir you, because now is the hour to prepare. The warning has gone forth, the trumpet is near, the heavens are declaring it, the earth is trembling beneath it, the Spirit is whispering it, and the bride must be ready. This is not religion, this is reality. This is not fantasy, this is fulfillment. You were born for this hour. You are not here by accident. You are part of the last act of the divine drama. The cloud of witnesses is watching. The angels are leaning in, and the King is preparing to rise from his throne. What you do now will echo in eternity. What you choose now will determine everything. Do not delay. Do not play games with God. The days of playing church are over. The hour of decision is now. The trumpet is sounding. And soon it will be the final one. You feel it, don't you, in your spirit, beneath the noise of this world, beneath the endless distractions and counterfeit comforts. There's something stirring, a trembling, a holy unrest. It is not fear, it is not panic, it is the drawing of the Spirit, the stirring of the watchman's soul, the ache of those who long for his appearing. You feel it when the sun sets just a little more red, when the winds shift, when the heavens seem to speak without a sound. Something is coming, and deep inside you know it. The trumpet is not just a sound to be heard, it is a truth to be lived. And those who are tuned to the Spirit can already hear its distant echo. They feel the call to prepare, not in panic but in purity, not in fear but in faith. They are trimming their lamps. They are washing their robes in the blood of the Lamb. They are letting go of what doesn't matter because they know what's coming does. Do not say it's a strange thing to speak of trumpets and judgments, of the rapture and the King's return. The world mocks what it does not understand, but we do not walk by the light of this world, we walk by the light of the Word, the voice that spoke the stars into being. And that voice has already told us what is to come. He said, "Behold, I come quickly, and he will not delay." Every generation since the resurrection has lived under the call to be ready. But not every generation has seen what we are seeing. Not every generation has witnessed the alignment of signs, the rebirth of Israel, the global convergence of technology, control, and apostasy. Not every generation has watched the words of prophecy leap from parchment to newsfeed. But ours has. And we will be held accountable for what we've seen. April 2025 may be just a date to some, but the Spirit says, watch. For the appointed times of the Lord are not random. He who created time moves in patterns, in rhythms, in divine symmetry. The Exodus, the exile, the restoration, the first coming, all on sacred timetables. Do we really think the second coming will be any less precise? Do we not yet understand that God speaks not only through prophets and visions, but through dates, calendars, signs in the heavens? God is not playing hide and seek. He is revealing mysteries to those who seek Him with all their heart. The seventh trumpet is one such mystery. It is the culmination of a divine order, the final blast before the change, the last breath before the shout, the final warning before the wedding. And what happens when the trumpet sounds? The dead in Messiah shall rise, and we who are alive and remain shall be caught up, snatched away, changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. But not everyone will hear the trumpet. Only those who are listening now will hear it then. You see, there's a sound being released even now. It's not audible in the natural, but in the spirit it's loud. It's the groaning of creation. It's the cry of the bride. It's the alarm of the watchman. It's the whisper of the Spirit saying, "Prepare ye the way," and it grows louder with each passing moment. With every war, with every storm, with every shaking, the sound builds. It's the overture to the return of the King. And how many will be ready? How many will have oil in their lamps, not religion in their minds, but love in their hearts? How many are still waiting for a better time to repent, not knowing that time is running out? The danger is not in the shaking. The danger is in ignoring it, because the shaking is God's mercy. It is the voice of the shepherd calling the wandering sheep. It is the voice of the Father calling the prodigal home. So many have built their lives on sand, fame, money, security, politics, comfort. But when the trumpet sounds, all of it will vanish like mist in the morning sun. Only what is rooted in Him will remain. You cannot cling to the world and rise in the rapture. You cannot serve Babylon and expect to be taken into the New Jerusalem. The seventh trumpet will make the divide unmistakable, and the time to choose sides is now. The trumpet is not entertainment. It is not a theme for books and movies. It is the boundary between time and eternity, and we are standing right at its edge. Can you sense it? It's like standing on the shore before the tsunami comes. There's a quiet, but it's not peace. It's the calm before the roar. It's the mercy before the fire. And soon the heavens will split, and the King will ride. He will not come quietly. The nations will mourn, the skies will burn, the earth will tremble. The kings of the earth will hide themselves in caves, but the righteous will lift up their heads, for their redemption draws near. And that moment, that moment, it is worth more than every treasure on this earth. To see His face, to be caught up, to hear Him say, "Well done." That is the prize. That is the crown. That is the end of the journey and the beginning of eternity. But there is still a race to run. There is still a harvest to reap. There is still a trumpet to sound before the trumpet sounds. You are that trumpet. Your life, your voice, your witness. Do not go silent now. Do not dim your light to please the darkness. Do not step back when the hour demands that you rise. This is the time to speak, to love, to warn, to weep, to pray, to fast, to intercede. We do not know the exact day or hour, but we know the season, and it is late. So late. And yet God is patient, not willing that any should perish. That's why the warning goes forth. That's why the call still echoes. Because the heart of God breaks for the lost. He weeps for every soul bound in darkness, for every prodigal still feeding swine, for every Saul who has yet to become Paul. The trumpet is for them too, and you may be the only one in their life who can sound it. Don't hold back. Don't wait for permission. You've already been commissioned. Go. Speak. Love. Warn. Pray. Shine. For soon, very soon, the night will come when no man can work, and only what was done for him will remain. What will the church look like when the trumpet sounds? Will she be radiant? Will she be ready? Or will she be distracted, divided, diluted by the culture around her? The trumpet is calling the church back to her first love, back to the altar, back to the cross, back to holiness, back to power, back to truth, back to the simplicity of the gospel, back to the fire. This is the season of Elijah. The spirit of Elijah is being poured out again to prepare the way of the Lord, not with fanfare but with fire, not with noise but with power, calling hearts back, calling the broken to restoration, calling the sleeping to rise, calling the lost to return. The altar is being rebuilt. The sacrifice is being prepared. and soon the fire will fall. Let it fall in you now. Let the trumpet awaken you before it awakens the world. Let the word cleanse you. Let the Spirit fill you. Let your life become the sound of that final blast. Because when the seventh trumpet sounds, it will be too late to get ready. You must be ready now. Not in part, not on paper, but in truth, in spirit, in power. You were not born for ordinary days. You were born for such a time as this. You were placed here now in this hour of shaking, in this moment of reckoning, to stand, to shine, to sound the alarm, and to be found faithful when the King returns. Let the fire burn. Let the Spirit speak. Let the heavens declare. Let the earth groan. Because all creation waits for the revealing of the sons and daughters of God. And the trumpet will sound whether we are ready or not. But oh, the joy of being ready, the joy of meeting Him in the air, the joy of stepping out of time and into eternity with the one who gave it all. That joy is worth it all. Every tear, every trial, every sacrifice, every surrender. Because soon, and very soon, the trumpet will sound. And when it does, it will shake not only the foundations of the earth, but the very fabric of time itself. Every prophecy that once seemed distant will come into focus like the rising of the sun after a long, dark night. The heavens will part, not as metaphor, but reality. The sky will roll back like a scroll, and the unseen will become seen. The invisible will be undeniable. And those who have been mocked for their faith, those who have wept in the secret place, those who have chosen obedience over applause, they will shine like the stars forever and ever. But until that moment, the battlefield rages, not with swords or guns, but with souls and truth. The enemy fights not with open warfare, but with distraction, deception, and delay. If he can't destroy you, he will dull you. He will lure you to sleep with comfort, pacify you with compromise, convince you that tomorrow is guaranteed. But tomorrow is a luxury. Eternity is reality. And the trumpet doesn't wait for convenience. You are not just a spectator in this hour, you are a vessel, a voice, a warrior. You were not called to blend in, but to stand out. You were not made to echo the world, but to declare the word of the Lord. And yes, it will cost you. It may cost you everything, your reputation, your security, even your life. But what is that compared to eternity with Him? What is that compared to the reward of hearing, "Well done"? The days ahead will grow darker. Make no mistake, the shaking will intensify, the birth pangs will increase. But for those who are ready, for those who walk in the Spirit and not the flesh, the darkness will only make the light more glorious. This is the hour when the bride must rise in beauty, in holiness, in power. Without spot, without wrinkle, without shame. The world doesn't need a church that ignites, that carries the presence of God, that walks in the authority of heaven, that fears nothing but the Lord. We must cast off every weight. We must lay down the sin that so easily entangles, the bitterness, the pride, the unforgiveness, the idols of success and self. We cannot bring those things into the presence of the King. We cannot carry compromise into eternity. The time to repent is not when the trumpet sounds, it is now. The time to humble ourselves is not when the heavens part, it is now. And don't think He delays because He's forgotten. No, He delays because of love, because of mercy, because He's giving one more chance, one more moment, one more call to return. He delays because there are still souls to be saved, still prodigals to come home, still hearts to be healed. And if you're hearing this, it's not too late. The door is still open, but it is closing. And when it closes, it will not open again. So we must watch, not with passive eyes, but with burning hearts. Like the watchman on the wall, we must not grow weary. We must blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on God's holy mountain, warn the people, wake the sleepers, strengthen the remnant. This is not a rehearsal. This is the final act. And the bridegroom is coming. The signs are in the heavens, the blood moons, the solar eclipses, the alignments of stars and planets. These are not accidents, they are messages. They are warnings etched in the sky. As it was in Genesis when the stars were placed for signs and seasons, so it is now. God is writing His word across the universe for all who will look up and see. And yet the world mocks, laughs, scrolls on. But the wise will understand. The humble will perceive. The ready will rejoice. There is a convergence now, like rivers flowing into one mighty stream. The prophecies of Daniel, of Isaiah, of John, of Paul, they are merging. The warnings of old are becoming the news of now. The harlot rides the beast. The nations rage. The great falling away is not coming, it is here. But in the midst of it, there is a remnant, a people set apart, a holy priesthood, a royal nation, a light in the storm. You are that light. You are that voice. You are that trumpet. Do not silence it for fear of offense. Do not dim it to gain approval. For what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? What does it gain us to win the crowd but lose the crown? This world is passing away. Its desires, its systems, its empires, all of it will be shaken to the ground. But the one who does the will of God will remain forever. When the trumpet sounds, there will be no more chances, no more sermons, no more altar calls, no more scrolling through truth. It'll be done, finished. Just as He said on the cross, it is finished, so will the chapter of grace close. And what you've done with the Son will echo into eternity. Did you love Him? Did you obey Him? Did you carry His name when it cost you, or did you trade Him for 30 pieces of silver, success, popularity, convenience? The seventh trumpet is not a soft sound. It is not a gentle whisper. It is the blast of the King's return. It is the proclamation of victory. It is the roar of resurrection. And it is the final line between this age and the next. And we must live every day with that sound in our hearts. Every decision, every conversation, every moment marked by eternity. There is no neutral ground anymore. Every choice draws a line. Every compromise reveals a heart. You're either pressing in or falling back. You're either preparing or pretending. And pretending won't save you. Religion won't save you. Only relationship will. Only a life hidden in Him, washed in His blood, set apart for His purpose. That's what the trumpet is calling us to. And when it sounds, the faithful will not be afraid. No, they will rise with joy like a bride running to her groom. They will leap into the air with freedom and glory, their bodies transformed, their sorrow gone, their tears wiped away, and they will be with Him forever. That is our blessed hope. That is the joy set before us. That is why we endure. But there is still work to be done, still fields to harvest, still nations to reach, still altars to build, and we must not delay. The hour is late, the sky is heavy, the wind is shifting, and soon the shout will go forth. Behold, the bridegroom comes. Will you be ready? Or will you be found in the valley of decision, choosing comfort over calling, safety over surrender, the wide road over the narrow path? The trumpet is mercy, the trumpet is love, but soon it will be judgment, and only those who knew the sound in secret will recognize it in glory. So tune your ears, open your heart, rend your garments, return to the Lord. For the day is near, the night is far spent, the King is coming. Let every breath you breathe be worshipped. Let every step you take be holy. Let every word you speak carry weight. Because eternity is not later, it's now. And soon, in the twinkling of an eye, the trumpet will sound. And everything will change. Everything will change. The systems men trusted in will collapse in a moment. The towers of pride, the thrones of corruption, the markets, the machines, the movements, they will all fall before the one whose voice shakes both heaven and earth. In that moment, the illusions will vanish. Every mask will be removed, every secret brought to light, and there will be no more hiding, no more pretending, just truth And for those whose lives were hidden in Christ, for those who walked the narrow road when it was costly, for those who wept in the secret place when no one saw, for those who bore his name when it meant rejection and ridicule, there will be joy unspeakable. Not joy like the world gives, not a passing thrill, but the eternal, unshakable, burning joy of the bride beholding the bridegroom face to face. This is the hour of preparation, the final stretch of the race, and the enemy is working overtime, not by brute force, but by fatigue, by weariness, by distraction. He wants you numbed. He wants you entertained, pacified, scrolling and sedated. He wants your eyes glued to screens instead of the heavens. But the Spirit is calling, louder than the noise. He's whispering in the wilderness, come away, come higher, come deeper. Because only those who separate themselves now will be ready then. Only those who build their house on the rock will stand when the winds come. And they are coming. You can feel it in the air. It's more than political unrest. More than economic instability, it's a spiritual tremor growing stronger. Birth pangs, yes, but not just signs of destruction, signs of a new world breaking forth. The kingdom is not a theory, it is not an ideal, it is reality and it is coming, not built by human hands, not voted into place, but established by the one who is faithful and true. And he will not be delayed forever. His patience is not weakness, it's love. But there is a limit. There is a line, and the trumpet will mark the crossing. And when that sound comes, it will be unmistakable, not just to the ears, but to the soul. The earth will respond, the heavens will answer. The dead in Christ will rise, glorified, radiant, robed in light, and those who are alive, who remain faithful, will be transformed. Mortal will put on immortality. Corruption will be clothed in incorruption. The limitations of this broken world will fall away, and we will see him as he is. But that moment will not be the beginning of preparation. It will be the reward of it. This is the moment to prepare, in the silence, in the ordinary, in the hidden place. This is the moment to surrender, to purify, to lay down the things that weigh you down, to strip off the sin that entangles. This is the moment to say, yes, Lord, when no one is watching. Because when the trumpet sounds, all your secret choices will be revealed in glory or in shame. The fire will test every man's work, not just the visible, not just the impressive, but the real, the hidden motives, the unseen sacrifices, the heart posture. And the fire will not lie. It will reveal what was built with gold and what was built with straw. God is not calling us to survive the shaking. He is calling us to shine in it, to stand when others fall, to speak truth when lies abound, to love radically, to give generously, to forgive quickly, to live like eternity is real because it is. And every breath you take is a step toward it. Do not waste your time. Do not sell your inheritance for a bowl of temporary comfort. The enemy wants you distracted until it's too late, but the Spirit wants you ready, watching, burning with first love, praying without ceasing, filled with oil, the oil of intimacy, the oil of obedience, the oil of brokenness and beauty. Because the trumpet will not honor titles, it will not respond to status, it will not recognize celebrity, it will only answer to those marked by the Lamb, those who carry his name not just in speech, but in surrender, those whose hearts are his dwelling place, those who have built their lives not on the approval of man, but on the word of the living God. The seventh trumpet, it is the end of the age, yes, but also the beginning of eternity's dawn. It is the declaration that the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdom of our God and of his Christ. It is the moment when time gives way to eternity, when the temporal is swallowed up in the eternal, and every tear, every trial, every delay will be worth it. But many will be caught unaware, just like in the days of Noah. They were eating, drinking, marrying, building, living as if tomorrow was guaranteed. And then the flood came, and it was too late. The door was shut, the opportunity gone, And Jesus said, "So it shall be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man." We are in those days now, days of warning, days of mercy, days of urgency, the final lap before the finish line. And the trumpet is not just a sound in the future, it is a call to live differently now, to wake up, to come out from among them, to walk wholly, to speak boldly, to love deeply, to give everything. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be surrendered. God is not calling the strong, He's calling the willing. Not the popular, but the pure in heart. Not the impressive, but the obedient. This is not a show. It's a surrender, and the time for it is now. Let the trumpet sound in you now, before it sounds for the world. Let it break every chain. Let it silence every lie. Let it shake every idol. Let it wake your soul from slumber. Because what is coming is not just a change in governments. It's the return of the King. Not just a shift in power, but the unveiling of glory. Every prophecy fulfilled, every promise kept, every eye will see, every knee will bow, every tongue confess. Jesus Christ is Lord, and those who knew Him in the secret place will meet Him in the sky, and those who rejected Him will face Him in judgment. The trumpet will not be a surprise to those who walk with Him. It will be the sound of home. So live like He's coming, because He is. Watch like the sky could split tonight, because it could. Love like it's your last chance to forgive, because it might be. Give like this world is not your treasure, because it's not. Speak like truth still matters, because it does. Pray like eternity depends on it, because it does. The trumpet is near, you feel it, you know it. And the only question that remains is, will you be ready? Let the trumpet sound. Let the trumpet sound, not only in the heavens, but in your soul. Let it thunder through your spirit and awaken every part of you that has been lulled by the illusion of delay. The Lord does not delay as man understands delay. He waits with long-suffering mercy. He waits because there is one more soul, one more cry, one more door to knock on, one more moment to choose life over death, light over darkness, eternity over the fleeting shadow of time. Yet the hourglass is draining. The last grains of sand are falling, not in fear, but in finality. The trumpet is not an if, it is a when, and all of heaven watches. The angels await their cue. The scrolls are unrolling. The seals have broken. And the final blast will sound when the fullness comes in, when the last name is written, when the last heart turns, when the last call has gone out. But for now, that call still echoes. It calls to the weary, to the wanderer, to the one who has fallen again and again. It calls to the prideful, to the apathetic, to the doubter. It is not the sound of condemnation, it is the sound of invitation. A trumpet not just of judgment, but of mercy. The trumpet that wakes the dead also calls the living to life before death has its final say. And now, in this moment, you must decide. Not later, not next week, not when it's more convenient, because the trumpet is not waiting for your calendar to clear. The heavens move to the rhythm of divine timing, not earthly schedules. God is not adjusting His plan to accommodate our comfort. He is calling us to adjust our lives to align with His purpose. There is no more time for shallow faith, no more space for casual Christianity, no more room for a gospel that conforms to culture instead of transforming hearts. The line has been drawn. The light and the darkness are parting like the Red Sea, and only those who step in faith will cross to the other side. The lukewarm will not. The indifferent will not. Only those burning with holy fire, watching with holy fear, waiting with holy love. You must decide who you are. Not by your words, but by your walk. Not by what you believe intellectually, but by what you choose when no one is watching. Do you choose Him when the crowd walks away? Do you love Him when the cost is your reputation, your job, your comfort? Will you still follow when the road leads through fire? because the fire is coming, not just to the world, but to the church. Judgment begins in the house of God. The fire will not only consume the wicked, it will purify the righteous. It will reveal what was real and what was ritual. It will separate the true bride from the impostor. And it will crown those who endured with joy, with righteousness, with the glory that does not fade. The trumpet, when it sounds, will not sound to the lazy. It will not sound to the indifferent. It will sound to the watchful. The ones who stood on the wall when everyone else went inside. The ones who stayed awake with oil in their lamps. The ones who carried the flame even when the night grew long. The trumpet will be a reward to them, not a terror, because they lived for that moment. And when it comes, oh, when it comes, it will be unlike anything the world has ever seen. Gravity itself will bow. Time will shatter. The veil will tear, not just in a temple, but in the sky. The Son of Man will come in power and great glory. The trumpet will be his herald, the voice of his return. And every sound ever heard will fall silent in its wake. The earth will reel, the heavens will split, and the King will ride, not on a donkey, but on a white horse, not to die, but to reign, not to be mocked, but to judge. And he will not come alone. With him will be those who were faithful, those who overcame, those who endured the night, those who bore the cross and now wear the crown. This is not fantasy. This is not metaphor. This is the fulfillment of every word that proceeded from the mouth of God. And if he fulfilled the first coming down to the smallest detail, do you think he will be any less precise in the second? No, it will be perfect. The timing, the signs, the sound, all of it will converge in divine precision. And until that moment, you are called to live as one who hears the trumpet even now, every day, every hour. Let that sound guide your choices. Let it shape your prayers. Let it fuel your worship. Let it break your pride. Let it humble your heart. Let it awaken your purpose. You are not here to survive. You are here to declare. Declare with your life that he is worthy. Declare with your obedience that he is Lord. Declare with your love that he is coming. Every word you speak should echo the sound of that trumpet. Every step you take should move in rhythm with eternity. Because you carry the message of the King. You are the watchman. You are the voice crying out. Do not wait for signs to become undeniable, because by then it will be too late. The world will see the sky split, but not all will rise. Some will hide, some will curse, some will weep, but not tears of joy. Tears of regret, tears of too late. But you don't have to be among them. You can be among those who lift their heads because redemption has come. So now, while the door is open, enter. While the invitation stands, say yes. While mercy calls, answer. Do not delay, do not hesitate. The trumpet is not only near, it is already sounding in the Spirit. And those who have ears to hear must listen now, must act now, must live now in a way that proves they are citizens of another kingdom. The days are coming and are already here when you will be hated for his name, when truth will cost you, when darkness will press in on every side, but you are not to fear, because greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. And if God be for you, who can be against you? You are made for this. You were born for this hour, not to retreat, but to rise. So rise, let the trumpet sound in your home. Let it sound in your marriage. Let it sound in your church. Let it sound in your city. Let your life be the sound of awakening. Let your breath be a trumpet blast. Let your worship shake the gates of hell. Let your prayer set captives free. Let your every action proclaim the King is coming. Prepare the way. Because when that last trumpet sounds, and it will, you won't be able to choose then. You must choose now. And the choice is not just about eternity, it's about now, about purpose, about calling, about living in the fullness of why you were created. You are not an accident. You are not insignificant. You are not too broken or too late. If you are breathing, then you are being invited into the greatest move of God the world has ever seen, the final harvest, the end-time outpouring, the great revealing of the sons and daughters of God. And the trumpet is the sound that tells you it's time. It's time to step into who you really are, to lay down the excuses, to throw off the chains, to let the Spirit clothe you in power, to walk like Jesus walked, to love like He loved, to serve like He served, and to endure like He endured, with eyes fixed on the joy set before you. Because the joy is coming, the glory is coming, the King is coming. Let the trumpet sound. Let the trumpet sound in your spirit until every dead thing in you comes to life. Let it shake the dust from dreams you buried long ago, dreams that came from heaven but were silenced by fear or disappointment. Let it resurrect your courage. Let it stir your faith until it becomes fire in your bones. Because now is the time to rise, not when things are easier, not when the world applauds, but now, while the battle rages and the night seems darkest. For it is in the darkest hour that the light shines brightest. The enemy would have you believe that this hour is hopeless, that everything is falling apart, that evil is winning. But heaven sees differently. Heaven sees a stage being set. Heaven sees the gospel moving with unstoppable power. Heaven sees the harvest ripening, and the trumpet declares, the hour is not to give up, it is to go forth. The trumpet declares, you are not defeated, you are anointed. The trumpet declares, your pain has a purpose, your scars are sacred, and your obedience is rewriting history. For every tear you've cried in secret, for every prayer you thought went unheard, for every step you took in obedience when no one applauded, heaven saw. And the trumpet will not only call the faithful home, it will vindicate them. The last shall be first, the rejected shall be crowned, the hidden shall be revealed in glory, and every sacrifice will be turned to praise. But do not be deceived, the trumpet will also bring division. It will separate light from darkness, wheat from tares, faithful from faithless, the counterfeit from the true. It is a dividing line, a sword. It will expose what we tried to hide. It will reveal what we tried to ignore. And those who played church, who knew all the songs but none of the surrender, who built platforms but not altars, many will be left wondering how they missed it. Because the trumpet is not drawn to sound but to substance. It does not respond to noise but to nearness. It will not sound for popularity but for purity, for humility, for holiness, for intimacy with the one who calls his sheep by name. And his sheep, they know his voice and they will know the trumpet. So how do you live in a way that hears it? You die. You die daily. You die to pride, to selfish ambition, to sin dressed as freedom. You die to fear. You die to comfort. And in that death you find true life. In that surrender you find power. The power to stand, the power to endure, the power to burn for him when the world goes cold. And you must burn. In a world growing numb, in a church growing casual, you must burn. Not with emotion, but with holy fire. The kind that cannot be quenched by trials, the kind that cannot be dimmed by disappointment. You must burn with a love that cannot be shaken, a devotion that cannot be bought, a faith that cannot be faked. Because when the trumpet sounds, the fire will matter more than anything else. Not how much you knew, not how many followers you had, but how deeply you burned for the bridegroom, how faithfully you carried his heart, how fully you gave yourself to his purpose. And his purpose is not hidden. It has always been to fill the earth with his glory, through vessels like you. It has always been to make disciples, to preach the gospel, to love the unlovable, to reach the unreachable, to heal the broken, to set the captive free. His purpose has always been redemption, and he's still doing it through you, if you'll say yes. But your yes must be costly, it must be complete, it must be now. The trumpet is calling you out of compromise, out of the middle ground, out to the life where Jesus is part of your story but not the center. It's calling you out of borrowed convictions and into real, living, breathing, walk on water kind of faith. It's calling you into the fire, because the fire is where you're forged. The fire is where you find Him. Do not be afraid of the fire. Do not be afraid of the shaking. These things are not signs of abandonment. They are signs of preparation. The shaking is not your ruin, it's your refinement. The wilderness is not your prison, it's your proving ground. If you're being tested, it means you're being trusted. And those who endure the test will emerge like gold, ready for the return of the King. And make no mistake, the King is coming, not as a distant idea, not as a theological concept, but as a real, returning, righteous judge. He will split the sky, the trumpet will go before him, the angelic host will fill the heavens, and every crown will be cast at his feet. Every nation will see him, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess, but not all will rejoice. For some the trumpet will be terror, for others it will be triumph. For some it will mark the end of what they thought would never end. For others it will be the beginning of the eternal joy they never thought they deserved, but received by grace through faith. And now this present moment, this breath, is your invitation to that grace. The door is still open, the time is still today, the call is still come, but it will not be forever. The trumpet will not delay indefinitely. The patience of God is perfect, but it is not permanent. He will not strive with man forever, and when that final blast goes forth, the time for decisions will be over. Until then, choose Him, again and again. Choose Him when it costs. Choose Him when it's hard. Choose Him when it seems you're alone. Choose Him when the world gives you every reason to walk away, because the trumpet isn't calling you to an easy life, it's calling you to an eternal one. It's calling you to carry a cross before you wear a crown. Let the trumpet reframe your suffering. Let it remind you that the pain of this present moment is not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed. Let it lift your eyes. Let it break your chains. Let it silence the lies. The trumpet does not speak in confusion. It speaks in clarity. It cuts through the noise. It announces the truth. The King is coming. So live like it. Love like it, preach like it, pray like it, parent like it, serve like it, worship like it, because when He comes, He's coming for those who lived like they believed He would. And when the trumpet sounds, it will not be just the end of the world as we know it, it will be the beginning of the world as He always intended. A world without death, without mourning, without crying or pain. A world where justice reigns, where peace flows like a river, where the knowledge of the Lord covers the earth as the waters cover the sea. That is what the trumpet ushers in. That is what your spirit longs for. That is what you were made for. So lift your head, strengthen your hands, stand your ground, keep your fire burning. Let the trumpet find you faithful. Let it find you watching. Let it find you ready. Let the trumpet sound. So now, as the final echoes of this trumpet call stir our hearts, the question hangs in the air. How will you respond? Not tomorrow, not someday, but now. The King is not waiting for a generation to impress Him. He is calling for a people who will be wholly His. He is not returning for a church asleep, distracted, deluded. He is returning for a bride made ready. You have heard the call. You have felt the urgency. The signs are no longer subtle. The hour is late, but the grace of God still reaches, still invites, still holds the door open for all who will enter. So don't waste another moment. Cast off every weight. Lay down every compromise. Set your face like flint. Burn for Him. Live for Him. Die to self, that you may truly live. Because when the trumpet sounds, and it will not be the end. It will be the beginning. And for those who are ready, it will be glory beyond comprehension. The King is coming. Let the trumpet find you faithful. Let it find you watching. Let it find you ready. Amen.